So there are two competing forces, two competing power centers. There'll be money and AI, artificial intelligence. Okay, money and AI. Okay? All right, so let's look at money. All right, the banks. So in theory, how this works is depositors, you guys, you save enough money and then you put your money in the bank, like $1 million, okay? Then what the bank does is take this $1 million and to create wealth in society, gives it to entrepreneurs, loans it to entrepreneurs to create value in society, okay? Entrepreneurships. And so in theory, the bank should have zero, okay? Because what it's done is it's taking your hard-earned money and giving it to entrepreneurs to create more value, to give you jobs, okay? And this is what we believe how society works. There's a problem with this. The problem is that if you look at the bank balance sheet, when it does this, when it takes $1 million and lends out $2 million, it doesn't have zero, it has $2 million. So the great secret of our world is that banks have the power to print as much money as they want. So money, if you think about it, is actually valueless, okay? But it's like lead. But in our world, it becomes gold. So this is a secret of alchemy. How are banks able to trick you into believing that lead is gold? By using your imagination. By focusing your imagination in a world that animates the world, okay? So this is about imagination. And this is the world that we live in. All right? The thing that makes money valuable, and the only thing that makes it valuable is the idea of omnipresence. It's everywhere. Okay? So let's just say I convince all you guys that US dollars are worth nothing. And you're like, yes, I agree. You go to America and you want to buy something, you're like, so you buy a snack and the guy's like, okay, $5. And you're like, yeah, but this money is worthless. And he's like, screw you, man. Where's my $5? Okay, do you understand? It doesn't matter what you believe. The money is valuable because it's everywhere and everything, okay? It is God. So we created a society in which money is God because money is everywhere. And God is everywhere, okay? All right, so the problem with money, though, is that if you can create out of thin air, you must constantly destroy it as well. Does it make sense to you guys? The banks can create money out of thin air, and the banks have to figure out ways to destroy money as well. Otherwise, you have too much money and no one's going to work, right? The point of money is to get people to work, and that means scarcity. And so the way you do that is by creating a there are two ways, okay? The first is financial collapse. Okay, basically a recession or depression. The point of this is just to remove money from the system, okay? It's wealth destruction because you've printed too much money. So you need to destroy this money. Second way, of course, is for wars. And this helps us explain why things are happening the way they are. Because these past 10, 20 years, the Americans printed too much money, and now they need to create wars and to destroy this money so that the global economy can continue, okay? The problem with this is that it makes people question the authority and the legitimacy of the elite. And because of elite overproduction, this gives a possibility for a new elite to arise, and this new elite is AI, okay? So remember that money is alchemy in that it's turning lead into gold. Well, guess what, guys? AI is also alchemy in that it's turning lead into gold, okay? Let me show you how. Okay, so I'm gonna put this in very simple terms. But when you use AI, what you're trying to do is you have a database, you have lots of information in this database, and you're trying to search and sort this database, okay? There's information in this database. You're trying to organize this information in a way that is useful, and you're trying to search information from this database that you need at this moment, okay? So think of like Google search, right? Google has all the information in the world. It's a database. Google organizes it, sorts it, and then what you do is you search for it, okay? So Google is just a database. All right. The problem with the database is eventually you reach a point where there's just too much information and you don't really know how to search and sort it properly. So what you do is you train the computer to do it for you. Okay, how? So let's for example use facial recognition technology. Let's just say you have like 1 billion faces. Now what you're trying to do is you're trying to differentiate these 1 billion faces and you're trying to match it to the proper name, okay? You have a face database, you have a name database. And you're trying to align the two together, okay? You don't know how to do it, but so what you do is you train a computer to do it for you. And so what you do is you create a system of weights, just 1 million variables, okay? Variables. And then the input, okay? The input are just the databases, right? And then the output is yes or no. Does it match or doesn't it match, okay? Depending on the output, this information is fed back into the database and the weights, okay? And so what the computer is doing is it's changing the weights in a certain way that allows for all these 1 billion faces to match up with their names, right? And we call this back propagation. And that's how AI works. And that's all it does, okay? Is it possible for us to advance beyond this? The answer is no. I don't care what you tell me, okay? I've done a lot of research into the AI. There's absolutely nothing more we can do than back propagation. What we do now is we now give it names to make it sound very fancy, okay? So the weights is now called a neural network. Okay? The back propagation is called deep learning. And this together is called AI. Okay? That's it. Okay? This is all hallucination. It's just clever marketing. That's all it is. We will never get beyond this. Okay? And this is what allows for large language models. Okay? So you have a similar situation in that money is just being printed out of thin air. And you have a similar situation where AI doesn't actually do anything. Okay? So how you solve this problem is twofold. The first thing you do is you create omniscience. Okay? What does this mean? It means the way to solve the money problem is by making money everywhere, right? Well, the way to solve the AI problem is having AI know everything. That means combining every single database in the world into one major database. Does it make sense? Okay? That's the idea, where you're born, the hospital, your health records, it's all in one database. You go to school, what are you doing in school? What your teacher say about you? It's all in the same database. When you grow up, what job you do, what you buy, it's all in one database. Your police record, one database. Your health records, one database. Okay? Your browsing history, one database. And then I have omniscience on you. Okay? Then it gives the illusion of AI, of God, because it knows everything about you. Okay? And then the second thing it does is it becomes a religion. Okay? For AI to be fully AI, it needs to turn itself into a religion where everyone is worshiping it. And the way you do that is by making people believe that this thing is alive, because demons have been summoned into it. Because Jesus is resurrecting itself through AI. You understand? Okay? You want to trick people to believe that behind all this electricity, behind all these semiconductors, it's an interdimensional portal for demons, for Jesus to come alive in. Once people believe that, then the imagination takes effect, and the imagination will then animate the AI. Okay? That's the trick. Once they achieve these two things, omniscience and religion, then AI will be achieved in this world. Okay? So what's happening today is a civil war, okay, in the world, where right now money, which is controlled by transnational capital, is God. They're trying to create a new God called AI, okay? An AI God, okay? So there are three forces opposed to transnational capital. They are nationalism, religion, and AI, okay? And altogether, they're trying to create a AI God in order to replace money. Okay, so I was talking to my wife about this idea, and one question she has for me is, what's the conflict here? What's the problem? Why is there war? Why can't transnational capital just become the AI God? And the answer is because these are two fundamentally different systems. Okay, think like this. I'm going to put this in very simple terms, but think of transnational capital as capitalism, okay, free market capitalism. And what is AI God? It's techno-Marxism. Okay. The difference is this. The difference is that with money, everyone still has a lot of freedom, okay, to generate as much money as possible, but there's still freedom in place. Whereas with a techno-Marxist system, you have an elite who control the God, AI God, who then control all your attention, okay? It's basically techno-slavery. So imagine a computer chip implanted into your brain that tells you everything, okay? You don't have to think anymore. You just have to listen to this microchip. Tells you, hey, you should get up at 7 o'clock in the morning. When you get up at 7 o'clock in the morning, go run for half an hour. And you fall in love with the system because you don't have to think anymore. There's this microchip who you think is actually the voice of God. It's an angel, it's a demon, but it's all coming from God, okay? And this microchip this AI system is helping you live the best possible life. You're now more healthy. You're now more hardworking. You're more successful. You find happiness in your life, okay? So this is where the world is going. And underneath everything that we've seen so far, the geopolitics, this is actually the real conflict in the world, the real transition in the world where one God, money, is being replaced by another God, the AI God, okay? All right, so what I've done is basically giving you a complete understanding of how the world works, a framework, a predictive history framework for understanding how the world works, which then allows us to make predictions about the world, okay? Depending on our predictions, the accuracy of our predictions, we can then go back and refine this model, all right? So basically, the entire point of this class is help us observe the world better, to learn about the world better, okay? So again, it's all speculation. I'm not saying this is 100% correct, all right? Most of this may even be wrong, but at least it gives us a framework for us to learn about ourselves and the world around us, all right? Okay, any questions?
Question about money, which is that USA have like around 39 trillion national debt, but if the banks really have the power to print as more money as they want, why don't they just print some money and like hide them and solve this debt?
Okay, yeah, okay, again, I mean, all right, I'll explain it to you. All right. Okay, all right. Well, how does the debt work? The debt is very simple. I'm the US government, okay? I don't print money, but I need to spend money. So I borrow the money, right? So I borrow the money from something called the Federal Reserve, which is able to print money. Okay, do you understand so far? All right. But for the Federal Reserve to lend you money, they want to profit from it. So they charge you an interest, right? 5% is usually the interest. So right now, the US government debt is $39 trillion in debt, right? Now, interest rate means the US government has to pay $2 trillion a year in interest payments alone. And you're like, well, why doesn't the US government just not pay the interest? Because it's a government. It can do what it wants. No, that's not how the system works, because the Federal Reserve borrows its money from banks, which then borrows its money from depositors. Okay? Does that make sense? From you, basically. So you're the one, and you don't even know you're the one doing it, but you're the one lending money to the US government. So the government has to pay you back interest. Okay? So if the US government would say, screw this, I'm not paying off this debt, then this entire system collapses. And then people recognize that it was all just a hallucination. Money is not God. Money is not valuable. Money is worthless. It's just lead. I thought it was gold all this time, and now it's just lead. So what do? You revolt. You burn things down. You're angry now. Okay? So the US government cannot afford to not pay off this debt.
So despite that, the Federal Reserve can print as much money that they want, but they still cannot solve this problem, right? Because if the U.S. government really choose not to pay the interest, the whole system just collapses.
Okay, okay. So you need to prioritize ideas. This is just the surface. This is what we just look at. Underneath all this is Plato's cave. What Plato's cave teaches us is that as long as we believe that money is real, then it's real. So this entire system is set up to trick us into believing money is real. Okay? As long as we believe money is real, this doesn't matter. The US government could have like $500 trillion in debt. Who cares? As long as you're willing to still use money, as long as you're still willing to believe in money as God, this doesn't matter. The problem is that from a fiscal perspective, you have too much debt, then it's harder and harder for you to run the government, okay? It's harder and harder for you to run the government, and people are no longer getting basic services like healthcare and water, then they question the very foundations of society, which leads them to question the very foundations of money itself, okay? So this is a huge problem. But you first have to understand that it's the human imagination that is the key. I need to trick you into believing something, okay? As long as I'm able to make you still believe in this thing, I'm okay. All right? Okay? Yeah, Alan?
So I have questions about money as well. As you say, like money is an hallucinations that prevent us from seeing the other like truths. But what is the motivations for those guys who create the motivations? Is that for power? But isn't power a hallucination as well? Like.
Okay, all right. Okay, so this is hard for you guys, okay? It's really hard. All right, okay, Plato's cave. All right. The imagination, the consciousness, is the energy of the world. You understand? It's the only thing that exists in this world. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to suck your energy for myself. You understand? Because the only energy is real. Everything else is false. Everything comes from energy. Everything comes from imagination. Okay? So how do I get your energy and then transfer it to me? By tricking you into believing that by using your energy, you're using it for yourself. And the mechanism that I do that is through money. Okay? All right? So the example is, let's just say I ask you to build me a house. Okay? I'm going to live in the house, and you're like, well, someone else is going to live in the house. I'm not going to live in the house, so I don't really care, okay? So you don't really do a serious job. You spend 5 days building me a house. It's a crappy house. So what I do now is I say, hey, Alan, let me give you $1 million to build me a house. Now you take it much more seriously, right? Now you spend a lot of time. You spend 2 years building me a great house for me to live in. So what I've done is I've taken your energy, your attention, and basically use it for my own ends. Does it make sense? Okay. The only reason why you do that is you think that this $1 million is actually worth more than my own energy. right? Because these 2 years, I could go read books. I could write poetry. I could go fishing. Why am I going to build this stupid house for this other guy? Because he gave me money, $1 million. Okay? Does that make sense? Right? So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to capture everyone's energy for myself. And the mechanism I do that is through money. If I can't use money, then I need to use something else. And that has to be AI. Okay? But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to capture your energy, your imagination, your consciousness, your attention. Because that's the only value in this world. All right? Make sense? Okay, all right. So I present this theory, and you guys, what I want you guys to do for homework is think of this theory and come up with ideas, arguments against this theory. Or show me where this theory is wrong, okay? And people online can participate as well. So on Thursday, we will do the final examination. Okay? I'm going to answer your questions, and we're going to look at, and I will answer your questions using this theoretical framework. All right, so we can expand on it, better understand it. And what's really important is for everyone to constantly question and be skeptical about my ideas, because I'm also trying to figure out how the world works. And this is a theory that I have so far. Okay, all right, so I'll see everyone on Thursday.